Hi Cardinals, I'm actually sitting outside today. I'm on that little step outside of the TK classroom. Behind me you can see that's our big oak tree over by the playground. Mr. Rigo might walk by, Father Jerome might walk by. I just thought it was such a nice day that maybe we could sit outside. I want to continue reading from the Twits. Last time we were reading, Mr. Twit had tied a bunch of balloons to Mrs. Twit's whole entire body. So this is called Mrs. Twit Goes Ballooning Up. "There's enough pull here to take me to the moon," Mrs. Twit cried out. "Take you to the moon," exclaimed Mr. Twit. "What a ghastly thought. We wouldn't want anything like that to happen. Oh, dear me, no." "We most certainly wouldn't," cried Mrs. Twit. "Put some more strings around my ankles, quickly. I want to feel absolutely safe." "Very well, my angel," said Mr. Twit, and with a ghoulish grin on his lips, he knelt down at her feet. He took a knife from his pocket, and with one quick slash he cut through the strings holding Mrs. Twit's ankles to the iron ring. She went up like a rocket. "Help!" she screamed. "Save me!" But there was no saving her now. In a few seconds she was high up in the blue sky and climbing fast. Mr. Twit stood below looking up. "What a pretty sight," he said to himself. "How lovely all those balloons look in the sky. And what a marvelous bit of luck for me. At last the old hag is lost and gone forever." Now this is called Mrs. Twit Goes Ballooning Down. Mrs. Twit may have been ugly and she may have been beastly, but she was not stupid. High up there in the sky, she had a bright idea. "If I can get rid of some of these balloons," she said to herself, "I will stop going up and start to come down." She began biting through the strings that held the balloons to her wrists and arms and neck and hair. Each time she bit through a string and let the balloon float away, the upward pull got less and her rate of climb slowed down. When she had bitten through 20 strings, she stopped altogether. She stayed still in the air. She bit through one more string. Very, very slowly, she began to float downward. It was a calm day. There was no wind at all, and because of this, Mrs. Twit had gone absolutely straight down. She now began to come absolutely straight down. As she floated gently down, Mrs. Twit's petticoat billowed out like a parachute, showing her long knickers. It was a grand sight on a glorious day, and thousands of birds came flying in from miles around to stare at the extraordinary old woman in the sky. This is called Mr. Twit Gets a Horrid Shock. Mr. Twit, who thought he had seen his ugly wife for the last time, was sitting in the garden celebrating with a mug of beer. Silently, Mrs. Twit came floating down. When she was about the height of the house above Mr. Twit, she suddenly called out at the top of her voice, "Here I come, you grisly old runyon, you rotten old turnip, you filthy old frumpet!" Mr. Twit jumped as though he'd been stung by a giant wasp. He dropped his drink, he looked up, he gaped, he gasped, he gurgled. A few choking sounds came out of his mouth. "Oh," he said, "ouch!" "I'll get you for this," shouted Mrs. Twit, and she was floating down right on top of him. She was purple with rage and slashing the air with her long walking stick, which she had somehow managed to hang on to all this time. "I'll swish you to a swazzle," she shouted. "I'll swash you to a swizzle. I'll gnash you to a nozzle. I'll nosh you to a nazzle." And before Mr. Twit had time to run away, this bundle of balloons and petticoats and fiery fury landed right on top of him, lashing out with the stick, cracking him all over his body. And this is his shocked face. Look. And this is what it looked like when she came down. Hopefully you can see that. So we're going to stop there for now. The next chapter is when it gets a little bit trickier and more interesting. It's the house, the tree, and the monkey cage.